The setup fees section is where you'll add user registration fees or user submission fees. Now there's a few complexities that are involved in these fees, so I'm going to demo the different ways you can set up fees for differing payment structures or tiered pricing and a few things like that. We'll start off first with registration fees. In order to add a fee, you'll just click the Add New Fee button, and that will take you to the Add Fee form. Now I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to say this is going to be a general registration fee. You can name these fees whatever you'd like, and I'm going to set its type to be a registration fee, meaning this fee will only be applicable when the user creates their account. I'm just going to come up here and say this is a $35 fee, and I'll put in a description. I'll just call this general. I'm going to go ahead and say Add New Fee. Now once that fee is in place, it still won't show up on your user's register account until you come into your user registration settings and enable the fee. And that's done right here with this first setting. I can enable or disable that fee. So I'm going to make sure I have enable set, then come down here and say update the settings so that that fee is now in place. Now when a user registers an account on your call, they'll see the default details that you require, and now they'll also see the fee. Here's the $35 fee. I already have a 50% discount applied, which is why you're seeing that it's coming down to $17.50. And that's how you set up the general fee. You can see that your fee name shows up here to the right, and the fee price will show up here to the left. Now, occasionally calls have tiered pricing as well. And tiered pricing is when you may have multiple levels of pricing, maybe a general, a members, and a student. So I'm going to go back and add a few new fees to show you how the tiered pricing works. So I'll come back into my pricing tab here, and I'll come back to set up fees. And let's go ahead and add two more fees. I'll add another fee. This one I'm going to call members. It's going to be a registration fee, and it's going to be $20 for members. I'll just call this members, and I'll add that new fee. And I'm going to add one more fee called students. So I'll say students, another registration fee. They're going to be $15. And students for the description. All right, now you can see I have three fees that are all user fees. Now when I come to this register page, I'm just going to refresh here so you can see. Now I have my tiered pricing. So the users would select whether they're a general, a member, or maybe a student for different pricing tiers. That's how you can set up multiple pricing. Typically, a registration fee is used when the user will register an account on your call, and then you allow them to enter a certain amount of submissions. So if your call requires $35 and you can submit up to 5 entries, you would set up a registration fee to allow that. Other calls have what's known as per submission fee, meaning every single entry is a new submission fee. This is probably a more common method of setting up fees, but you can use one or the other or even both. I'm going to demo how to set up the submission fee next. Let's go ahead and add a new fee here. So for this fee, I'm just going to call this a submission fee. I'll just leave this as submission fee here. And it's going to be set as a type of submission fee. I'll say $25 per submission. I'll just give this a description of submission and say add new fee. Now that that submission fee is in place, when the user goes to submit an entry, they'll have to pay this $25 for every single entry. And just like submission fees, it won't show up until you go enable the fee. So I need to come into the submission settings, select edit, and then right here I can go ahead and enable submission fee. So I'm going to click that button, come down to the bottom and say update. Now I'm going to log in as a sample user so you can see what that looks like. As an admin, you have the ability to log into any of your users' accounts. So I'm just going to come to the registered users that are set up inside of this demo setting, and I'll just go ahead and log into one of these sample. These are mostly all fake email addresses, but I'll just log into, let's say, Jane's account. So I'll come over here and click this eyeball to log into Jane, and you can see Jane already has several submissions in here, and I'm going to add a new one. So I'll select, this is, by the way, this is what the user sees on their end because I'm logged in as if I were Jane right now. So I'll say add new application here, and you can see that that submission fee is now down here at the bottom. So there's my $25 submission fee. I still have that discount applied, which is why it's showing me the $12.50. and they would then have to pay this fee upon every single submission that they enter into the call. This is the most common type of fee that we see through most calls. All right, now let's jump back here just to make this video complete, as fees seem to be something that you'll want to make sure you get set up correctly. I'm going to switch back to the admin user, so I'm logged back into the back end here. I'll come back into the fees, and just to make this complete, I'll add one more submission fee so you can see how the tiered pricing works with submission fees. Maybe I want to have a members discount as well, so I'll say members, and they're going to be at $10. And this will also, we'll just say members here for the description, and we'll add this fee. And you can see I now have 2 submission fees. So when I come back here to Jane Doe's account and refresh here, whoops, I've got to actually go log back in as her. So I'll come back to my registered users. I'll come over to Jane Doe and log back into her account. Go ahead and add a new application. And now you can see I have the tiered pricing on top of one another here in the bottom for the payment details. And that's how you can set up submission or registration fees. The last thing I'm going to demo in this video, this is a little bit longer one, is how to set up fees that allow for discounts for multiple submissions. Oftentimes, you'll have a call that'll have specific needs. For example, they may say the first 3 submissions are billed at $35 a submission, and then each additional submission after the first 3 is $20 a submission. And there's a way you can also add those constraints. Now, to add those type of constraints, you need to come into the submission settings, click Edit Settings, and you need to enable what's called multi-pay. Now, with a regular submission fee, you can see right now I'm limiting my users to 7 applications per user. So each user can log in and add up to 7 entries into my call. After that, it won't let them enter any more. And they'll pay for each individual application as they submit it. If you click on the Enable Multi-Pay button, this allows for a user to pay for all 7 applications up front if they choose. So right now I'm not going to get to these settings quite yet. I'm just going to turn on Enable Multi-Pay, and I'll go ahead and say Update Submission Settings. Now I'm going to go back and log in as Jane. So I'll come back here to my users. I'll come over to Jane's account and log in as her. And this time you'll see when I go ahead and select Add New Application, it allows me to choose how many I want to pay for. And notice I can only pay for 1 or 2. And that's because if you'll notice Jane's account here, I'm going to click back. Jane already has 5 applications that she's entered. So if she wants to add more, she can only pay for an additional 2 because the limit was set to 7 in my settings. If she had 0, when she clicked the Add New Application, she would be able to choose 1 through 7. So in this method, Jane can say, okay, I want to go ahead and pay for 2 applications, and that will automatically change the price. You can see it goes to 50 to 20, and then she can punch in her credit details, credit card details there, hit purchase, and that will give her what's known as submission credits. And then each time she adds a new submission into the call, each of those credits will be decremented. You can see right now she has 0 remaining credits, but she can purchase those credits and use 1 for every single submission. So that's just the way default multi-pay works. Now, in order to demonstrate this next feature, I'm actually going to come in here and delete this submission of Jane's here. So I'm going to delete this submission. This will remove it from the system completely. This is an action that your users can take. If they upload a submission, they're able to delete it. They're able to edit all of the settings for their submissions up until the submission deadline. So now she only has, looks like 3 in here. Just to reiterate this point, now if Jane was to say add new application, you can see she can choose 1 through 4 because 7 is the max. Okay, so back to the admin user. Let's go set up a few of those advanced settings for multi-pay. Most calls, by the way, don't have this requisite, but for those that do, it is available. So we'll come back here to the submission settings. I'll select Edit Submission Settings, and we're going to look at the optional multi-pay settings. So there are kind of 2 ways you can use this. Now it says after the first, so I'm just going to choose 2 applications, discount each additional application 25% off. And I can also force the user to purchase, let's say, an allotment of 2 in their initial transaction. So if your users have to pay for at least 3, then you can force that first transaction's minimum here. So again, after the first 2, then they get 25% off each additional application. I'm going to force them to purchase 2 in the first transaction. Now let's go ahead and see how that behavior affects the way this setting is set up. All right, so I'm going to come down here to the registered users button, and this time I'm going to log into this bottom demo account here because I know that this user has no submissions yet. So I'll come in here and you can see they have 0 submissions so far. All right, let's go ahead and click the Add New Application button. And you'll notice when they come in here, there's a few extra details, and this is because we have those multi-pay advanced features enabled. So it tells the user after 2 applications, you get 25% off each additional application. This discount is actually automatically applied, and there's a minimum of 2 applications required for the initial purchase. So when they come in here and say pay for how many, the minimum they can choose is 2 applications. So I'm going to go ahead and select 2, and you'll notice that I have the standard price. It's the regular $50 and $20 because I'm not getting a discount until after 2. But if they choose 3, you'll notice now it goes up to $68.75. So instead of the regular fee, they're getting 25% off that 3rd submission, and that discount is automatically factored in there for them. So they can choose all the way up to 7 applications, and they automatically get that extra discount for the additional ones, fill out their details, and hit Submit Payment Charge. And that's a way you can set up a few of those advanced features inside of your payment settings for your fees for your call. Now, if you are a festival call type and you have booth fees, those aren't paid until you approve the applications. So those fees will be discussed when we get to the booths category in a later video.